following program was paid for and made possible through a United States Department of Agriculture 2015 Value Added Producers Grant.
It's really a lot more beneficial because I love eating red meat.
It actually has more flavor than the grain finished beef. It really is more reminiscent of what I remember when I was growing up.
Vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, almost everything. Iron is going to be higher and sometimes like 2 to 5 times higher in some of the studies, like significant amount higher than the grain-fed.
Grass-fed beef, healthy, lean, without antibiotics, without hormones, raised without stress and finished on pastures where cattle ought to be. A clean food that's humanely raised, which in turn benefits the environment. We here at the Texas Grass-Fed Association have the mission of promoting the production and consumption of grass-fed beef. Fact is, we want more people eating grass-fed beef and more ranchers raising it. We also want consumers to know where their beef comes from and how it eventually gets to your table so you can make sound choices about the beef you and your family eat. Texas consumers have 2 choices of beef, either grass-fed, grass-finished beef, and what is called CAFO beef, which stands for Confined Animal Feeding Operations. Often this is referred to as feedlot beef. Feedlot beef is the main, if not the only choice of beef in most stores. Is there a difference between the two?
Grass-fed beef recommended in pretty much across the board in our patient population. I'm not telling people to get grass-fed beef out. I'm asking them how much they're eating because we see a lot of anemia. We see a lot of things where their blood counts are too low, and some people have thought that they were being healthier by eating less grass-fed beef, but then I'm telling them, hey, no, you need more red meat. You need more red meat. It just needs to be clean meat. We get some of those nutrients, minerals, antioxidants from our plants, but then one of the best sources other than that is going to be grass-fed beef. Even vitamin D, your best vitamin D is through the sunshine, of course, getting it through your skin, but one of the best sources through your food is grass-fed beef, which is a great source of B12 as well. So just, I mean, the list goes on and on about the benefits, superiority of grass-fed beef versus a CAFO beef. Again, people will kind of then be able to make a very educated and not just think, oh, that's just more expensive. That's just an organic fad, you know, a movement that's going to go. It's just trying to make you pay more money for the same thing. I think it's just a matter of time before that's mainstream and people know that.
All cattle at one time are raised on pasture, eating grass from the time they are born. But when it comes time to wean the cattle is when the differences begin to occur. After weaning, grass-fed cattle remains on grass and pasture the rest of their life and are only supplemented with hay or silage when grass can't grow, like during times of drought or in wintertime. These cattle will take upwards of at least 2 years before they make it to market weight. They receive no growth hormones or antibiotics ever in their lives. Their growth is slow and natural, grazing and running around and living on pastures all their days. CAFO beef, on the other hand, take a very different course after weaning.
Confinement animal feeding operations were really designed to provide an efficient way to deliver a nutrient-dense diet to a large group of animals in the most efficient manner as possible.
Generally speaking, these recently weaned cattle are sold at local sale barns to other ranchers as stockers. These stocker ranchers hold on to the cattle to gain an extra amount of weight for a certain length of time. Often, artificial growth hormones are given to these cattle at this time to help them gain weight and to increase marbling, and some are introduced to a light grain diet. Once these stocker cattle reach that certain weight, they are then sent to a feedlot operation for them to gain fast, quick weight for 90 to 160 days.
Animals entering a confined animal feeding operation generally receive some antibiotic and hormonal treatment depending upon the customer of those products or the specifics of those animals. They are fed and offered those additional factors in an effort to maximize their efficiency in the feeding stages.
This is where, in their last 3 to 5 months of life, They are confined to pens with hundreds of other cattle in these feedlot operations, eating a very scientific diet of grains and supplements with no exercise, fresh air, or pasture.
It's helpful for people, again, just to step back and go, think about it for a second. Think about what you're eating. Think about the way an animal's treated. Go visit one of these CAFO, conventionally processed, see what you see, and then, or just drive down the road and see what a grass-fed cow looks like. When you see a cow grazing on a pasture versus the opposite, it's a big difference. It should invoke something inside of us emotionally too, like that's not right, that looks right. Again, kind of intuitive, but when we're buying a steak or buying a burger at the store, we kind of just look at it as it's just there. We don't think about what it took to get there, the importance of that animal being healthy. We just think about what we're going to put on our burger or how this is going to taste. But really, from a ethical, environmental, sustainable, we really do want to look at food from all of those levels, because we can't keep treating the earth like we're treating it and expect our food to be healthy, and even not just animals, but plants to be healthy, and then the plants that the animals eat, the plants that we eat to be healthy. It's a big topic in a lot of ways, but there's definite health benefit.
I think what crystallizes it most for me was when I went and visited, John and Wendy's facility out there, and we walked down a gravel road to a nice green field. We put our arms on the fence and we're talking, and the cattle came up to Wendy like big puppy dogs. She kind of feels like the animals know their place in the world, and they know that they're going to ultimately be eaten. That's her theory. If you contrast that with driving through the West Texas and smelling a CAFO feedlot, 5 minutes before you can see it, and then you see the dust cloud over it, and you just can't imagine anything good coming from that. A lot of people don't get the opportunity to see what a CAFO environment looks like, and it's not real pretty, and it doesn't smell very great either. That kind of crystallizes it for me.
Because they are confined, feedlot cattle must also receive antibiotics to stave off any reactions their bodies may have to living in densely packed, confined quarters.
There is, and a lot of producers of beef in the confined animal feeding operations are moving away from the hormones and antibiotic treatments because consumers are being more vocal about their choices in the marketplace. It is the industry of agriculture's pursuit to address the consumer and their changing needs by producing products that they perceive.
You are what you eat, and all of these hormones, antibiotics, and byproducts of a high carbohydrate, GMO grain-fed diet that concentrate in the fat of the cattle are then passed on to those who eat this beef. The Texas Grass-Fed Association strongly believes that because of these issues, the raising and consumption of grass-fed beef is healthier for us, healthier for the cattle, and healthier for the environment. Texas grass-fed beef is also synonymous with the clean and local foods movement. Foods produced without harmful synthetic chemicals, naturally, organically healthy food which is produced within a few hundred miles of the customer.
Diet and food is always the foundation of any healing protocol. If we do a perfect lifestyle supplement-based protocol for a person, but their diet is trash, they're not going to heal from anything. That has to be the core and the foundation of healing.
I think local is important. It's not, it's very easy to do now because actually a lot of our big box wholesalers are carrying, local products and organic products. Local and organic we kind of use interchangeably. Like to get organic when we can, and if it's a choice between local or organic, we'll probably go with local just because of maybe a little bit of a different characteristic of the product.
You're we're about 60 miles from Fort Worth, so you get around these big metropolitan areas, there's a lot of people getting into the health side of meats, or just the health side of life itself. That kind of prompted us to go ahead and look at doing grass-fed beef. It is a healthier, less fat beef, and so to get into some of these markets to where people are looking for a healthier food product, that's kind of prompted us to look into this.
Consumers are becoming more aware of the quality of their food. This is reflected in figures recently released by the Organic Trade Association, which show that total organic consumption of organic food has reached 5% of all food purchased and increased 11% this past year. Although not all grass-fed beef is certified organic, it does show that many consumers are leaning towards clean, local, healthy food and are voting with their dollars for these choices. The bottom line is that because of its diet and environment, grass-fed beef has a more healthful profile than CAFO beef. It's lower in calories and fat, lower in saturated fats, higher in omega-3 fatty acids, lower in omega-6 fatty acids, has higher levels of many different vitamins and minerals, and high levels of conjugated linoleic acid, or CLA, which is a major antioxidant and possesses cancer-fighting properties.
You can't turn on a TV channel and watch more than 5 minutes TV without being inundated from what pill you should take. You know, it helps with this, it helps with that, and it has a side effect, so you take another one. Right off the bat, the first and foremost is it's the healthy way to eat and to live. It starts to get rid of your dependency of, well, what am I going to be in 10 years? How am I going to live? How am my health in 10 years? You know, you start off and you're eating healthy. And so what you're putting in your body is good for you, instead of trying to figure out what's going to be wrong later and how do you combat that.
It's kind of like, I would compare it to the craft beer market in Budweiser. There are probably 1,000 craft beers in the country now, whereas 10 years ago you could have counted the ones that you could name on one hand. But I think there's a ton of room for grass-fed beef and local grass-fed beef.
There's a couple really thoughtful, progressive cardiologists out there that are dumping the traditional recommendations when it comes to food and actually digging into the research on what's happening in the body with inflammation and the benefits of grass-fed beef.
Cattle have always been, that's what they're made for, is to convert on grass. And this commercial side of feeding cattle, it kind of got us to thinking about a more natural type beef, and so we got interested in maybe just trying to finish them out on grass. It's a little longer process at times, but we think it could be a healthier product, and so we've just been looking into that for about the last year.
We think it's pretty clear why grass-fed beef is the obvious choice for health-conscious consumers. It's becoming more and more available, and there's a reason for it. Texas grass-fed beef. Make it a habit.